All right, so we're going to talk today a little bit about the solution. We've got another problem you might not be aware of. In fact, we're going to talk about a couple of major problems. We've got third-party software. And when we're talking about third-party software, that's where a lot of breaches happen. Now, we just did a scan the other day for a company, one of our CLAs, one of our cyber liability assessments, and we found that most of their systems had software that was third-party software that had not been patched. In fact, we walked into a prospect the other day who's now a client. This is somebody different. And up on their wall was one of these little video cameras, you know, the type that you can buy for a whole system for a couple $100, and they're internet connected. Everything's wonderful. And we had a real quick look at those and said, oh, wait a minute now. Let's have a closer look. We opened them up, and sure enough, this was the Chinese hardware that is known to be completely compromised and used for launches of attacks. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. We had a great meeting with a restaurateur this week, and we had to explain a couple of things to him about a POS system. So that's what we're going to be talking about. What are these third-party liabilities? What are these problems that you could be having and that you might not even know about? Remember, last time we talked a little bit about some of those problems and what they can mean and how long it takes to get those problems resolved, right? It can be a really big deal. So let's get going with today. I want to point out something here. This is from a seminar I attended years ago, and they pointed out that you cannot learn to ride a bike in a webinar. Have you seen this type of bike before, by the way? It's a great way to learn. There's no pedals. You can adjust the heights a little bit. Little kids learning how to ride. And I've got to point out, too, while we got this slide up, not only can you not teach a kid to ride in a webinar, ride a bicycle in a webinar, or anybody else for that matter, but I cannot teach you enough about security to make you an expert. And that's not my goal today. Right? Most of you are business people, you're business owners, you just don't have time. So I've got a new, completely different offer that we'll talk about at the end of today's webinar. Something I think you'll like. I had a few people ask for it. In fact, I ended up signing up 2 people for this as well already. So if you're interested, I've got a done it for you type option at the end that's going to help you through that whole cyber liability assessment, creating a plan, getting that all together. Okay, so stick around. We'll be covering that as well. Now, we're going to have one more chance on your business cyber liability assessment at the end as well. The same one we had yesterday. As I mentioned, we're signing up 100 by the end of the year. We still have some left. We only started this about a week ago. So we've got about 20% allocated so far. So we'll do that as well still for you, but that's at the end, okay? For those who haven't attended the first 2 webinars in this series, I am a internet security expert. I've been doing security almost exclusively for customers since the early 90s. I've been doing internet itself since 83, and I've helped more than 5,000 business customers over those years. Pretty big deal. I served a maximum term on Apple's advisory board, and also I am the webinar host for the FBI's InfraGard webinars. We talked the first time about the anatomy of an attack. We went through an actual attack, how doxing is occurring today, and how that's used to attack small businesses. We talked about how the FBI statistics are showing that the whole business email compromise scam, which involves phishing and various other types of things, how that's costing businesses over $12 billion in cash over the last 24 months. Then we also spent some time talking about ransomware, and this was, of course, yesterday, what it's doing to businesses. It's a real big deal. You don't hear it quite as much on the news as we used to hear. But bottom line, the next wave of ransomware is coming. It is on its way, and it's scarier than ever because, as we talked about yesterday, there are now tools that you can use. You've probably heard about the dark web. My team and I, about 1,200 dark web reports for people last year. And we also sold a subscription so that we check the dark web and let people know if their business information was out there or their personal information was out there. Well, now the dark web is being used to sell ransomware software. So you can go on the dark web, and for just $20, you can now pre-configure your ransomware, what you want to demand, how much money, what you want it to do, and download the executable. You now have it. Don't run it, by the way. And you start distributing that ransomware. So we went into that in detail as well yesterday and the week before, because it is such a big deal. If you did not view those two, make sure you go to my concierge page. That's going to be up for, at least until the end of the week. This week, you can watch the prior videos. Then we'll be taking it down. We're going to offer a few other things. I'm trying to do a lot of teaching, a lot of helping businesses out. So that concierge page will disappear about the end of the week this week. So make sure you check it out if you haven't seen those other videos yet. So what do you need to protect? That's always the big question. I hear this all the time. People are saying, I'm a small business. They're not coming after me. And I think if you've been through the first two webinars, you have a pretty darn good idea of what you have to protect and the fact that you are the targets. But you've got confidential and sensitive information. We went through this in some detail yesterday. You've got, of course, financial, product development, intellectual property, all of your sales data, all of your financial records. Don't forget about that. Projects, passwords, emails, credit cards, human resource information with salaries, social security numbers, all of this stuff, right? That can really get you in a lot of trouble. Well, today we're going to start with the third-party element. What is a third-party element? Well, this is all of that software and hardware and other things that you have right now in your offices. So have a look at this little word cloud. You might be using Dropbox or Box, almost certainly using Microsoft or Apple, QuickBooks for accounting, Salesforce for tracking your sales and keeping in touch with clients, all of this stuff out there. And it's all dangerous to different degrees. People are looking at the cloud as some sort of a panacea, that it's going to save them from security. It's not. We have security products that are designed just to protect specific cloud services. So a product just to protect Salesforce, etc. Because again, there's personally identifiable information that you don't want to get out at all. Now, when it comes to hardware, we'll talk about these in a little bit, but there is a lot of third-party hardware. Look around my office here. Now I've got a microphone. This thing's not internet connected. Karen was telling me this morning about this company that had, what did you say it was? It was a machine. Yeah, a welding machine, right? It's a welding company, and they had a welding machine, and they were all excited because it hooked up to the internet, and they could download pre-programmed patterns and really kind of get it all together. Not so fast, people, because again, if it connects to the internet or connects to any network, you could have a very real vulnerability. So software, let's get to this first. We've got databases that are out there. We've got software like Word, the Adobe suite. I mentioned the other day how Adobe's PDFs are vulnerable continually. It seems there's an update for that. Adobe Flash, don't run it if you don't have to. Google said it's gone. It is not going to be supported at all in its future versions of its web browser for good reason. Apple has turned it off by default in Safari for great reason as well. Got to be careful of that software. When it comes to the automation side of things, again, serious problems. We love automation, don't we? It helps move people along. It helps processes come through and happen. But it is also vulnerable. All of your business intelligence that we're using now, where we're uploading our data to the server. This is going to be a bigger problem in the future, because we already have our friends over at Google who are saying, give me all of your data. businesses are actually uploading their databases right into the Google Analytics cloud so that Google Analytics can look at it and come up with I think some great information, right? So that you know what the patterns are in your business, what's really growing right now, and then tying that into even bigger data where they're keeping track of what's happening in the world today. Who's online? Who's not online, right? When the holidays are, where people are going, schools starting up again. So maybe you want to get some more laptops in inventory. All of this is going to be a bigger problem as we go forward in time, frankly. Services that we buy, and there are a lot of them, and we use them all of the time. We cannot allow a service, whether it's a cloud service or some other third-party service, we cannot allow them unrestricted access to our data. Just like we can't allow all of our employees access to everything. You know, when was the last time, if you have a small business, you audited your data use policies with what's called a least privilege policy? Most of us, frankly, have never done any of that. Okay, it can be a big problem. Okay, very big problem. So I have, by the way, let me know in the chat right now. If you want, I can send you a sample contract that you can put in place with your service providers that helps to transfer some of the liability of them having your data. It's a great little sample. Obviously, you can take it to your lawyers. Let me know. You can just stick it in the chat channel or email me at Craig Peterson. I'll be glad to send that out to you. I sent it out to another new client, in fact, just about 2 hours ago. But services, again, just because you have a service, just because you have Microsoft Office or some other service that you're using, doesn't mean your liability is gone. The Internet of Things is huge and dangerous. When was the last time you updated the firmware in your microwave or your stove or maybe your washing machine? Have you ever done it? How about your light bulbs? Have you updated the firmware in those? You know, Hue, that great bulb from Philips that does any color, and it's internet connected, and you can control it and just have a whole gas because you can change it to any color you want to, right? Fantastic. Have you seen the videos where people with drones, they fly a drone past a building that has Hue bulbs in it, and they can completely control the bulbs? Put swear words up on the windows because, you know, you use the window patterns. You've seen that before, right? Like a Christmas tree or something in the middle of winter using lights in different offices. They're all very hackable. And we're just installing them like it doesn't matter. We're installing our video cameras, the security cameras on our main network, right? Who hasn't done that? That's very, very dangerous. I can say we haven't done that, but it's very dangerous. This is not the world it was just 5 years ago. In fact, it's not the world it was 6 months ago. The things we did for years just don't work anymore. And I was with, in fact, it was Steve and Ella and Hannah, 3 of my people, were out at a client site today. And there are new requirements that were put in place for them because of new security standards, etc. And they were just complaining about it. But the reason they're in place now is because what happened yesterday does not track into tomorrow or today. And this whole Internet of Things is really going to be, I think in many ways, our downfall because we're not used to updating them. Even our routers, our home routers, the routers we get from our cable company are not getting updated. Your routers at your business, are those getting updated? The answer is probably no. And this is all part of this whole Internet of Things that we're going to have to pay a lot more attention to in the future. This is a biggie. Raise your hand if you've ever heard of shadow IT or shadow information technology. We know about the IT people. Some of us know about the security IT people or information security. We know about those guys, but do you know what shadow IT is? Shadow IT are those people within our organization that are buying IT products. So shadow IT are the marketing manager, the sales manager that's going out and subscribing to Salesforce.com, or maybe using Infusionsoft for lead generation. Shadow IT are the people over in finance that are using QuickBooks or an online point of sale system. These people are making what amount to information technology decisions, and yet they are not IT professionals. That's a real problem. And this is, as I said right here, it's a risk that's hidden in plain sight for most people. These people are walking around our offices. These people are going and making decisions and are saying, well, I'm the market manager, I get to make this decision. When in fact, they don't have enough knowledge, enough information to make the decision. So we've got to be really careful about that. Yeah, I see a few people have heard of Shadow IT, but most have not. Look at this picture here. Look at all of this stuff. We've got a Twitter logo you probably recognize, right? We've got World Wide Web logos on here, email. The list goes on and on. There are hundreds of things being bought by people in our businesses that we don't know about. And frankly, they don't know enough about to make a decision. So an example, we use Dropbox internally. And in fact, we have Dropbox installed for a lot of our clients, our clients that have to keep their information safe, secret even. We know Dropbox, and we know that there are multiple levels of Dropbox service. The stuff you buy on their website for $10 a month does not contain the security you need. It does not have the backups you need. Same thing, we keep seeing this all the time on Microsoft Office. Microsoft O365, which can provide you with email, it can provide you with file sharing, right? All of their software, even all of their services. It's not all created the same. Microsoft has SKUs, right? If you're a business person, you probably know what a SKU is. If you go and you buy something and you take it off the shelf there at the supermarket, on the back, there's going to be a little barcode, right? And that's the SKU for that device. So you now know what it is. It can be tracked. There's inventory. So if you go into a grocery store, there might be 30,000 SKUs there. That is a lot. Think about how many different things there are in the grocery store. And every different size package has a different SKU, even if it's the same product from the same manufacturer. Microsoft has more than 1,000 SKUs for the basic services and software they offer. We're talking between Microsoft and Google, for instance, if you're starting to use like Google's G Suite, over 5,000 SKUs. How can you figure out what the right one is, right? So if you got Shadow IT out there, in other words, the guy who's responsible for sales and marketing making some of these decisions, he might be making the wrong ones. And we got to kind of pull that all in. These are very, very popular pieces of software right now. In fact, we went online this morning. We grabbed these as being really probably the top software products that you guys are all using. These are the top 10. We made some selections because some of the stuff was really for bigger business as opposed to small. Do any of these names ring a bell for you? Well, when we tie all of that into the Internet of Things, we're now dealing with thousands of points of failure, okay? And the customers that you have don't care whether you lost it, whether your business partner lost it, whether a cloud service lost it, if it was Microsoft. They don't care. They're going to be upset. We talked about the stats last week a little bit about having data loss. So I went online and Karen went on and we had a look around to try and find what were the hacks in 2018. So we started pulling them out and putting them up on slides. Here's one right here. Saks Fifth Avenue, Lord & Taylor, 5 million exposed records. It was reported in April of this year. Now, Karen, wasn't this one that they'd been stealing data since May of 2017? Yeah. Yeah, so they've been in their system since May of 2017. And what did they do? They put software into an unsecure point of sale system. 3 days ago, we were out talking with a company that had POS systems. We got into the POS system. It was not protected. It was in developer mode. It was just crazy. We could have done anything. And so what happens with that? Well, you install a credit card scraper piece of software right there on the nice little tablet. And that nice little tablet, every time they run the credit card, the tablet's dutifully going to send it to the POS software. It's going to charge their card. Everything looks normal. But at the same time, it's going to capture that card information and then transfer it up to the bad guys. That's the sort of thing that's happening all of the time. But you know what we couldn't find when we were online looking around? Lots of these big companies, lots of these big breaches, but we didn't find anything about small and medium businesses, actual cases of businesses. Now, we found a lot of statistics that were published by everybody from the FBI through business organizations, but we really wanted to share with you a couple of stories about small businesses that had lost everything because of it. And then we came to realize, the bottom line here is small businesses, they hope it didn't happen, right? But who wants to admit that they lost everything? And who wants to admit that part of what they lost was their whole business? And the answer to that is pretty much nobody. So we went online, we found some more stats. This one's really interesting. 60% of companies fail within 6 months because of this. Okay, so there's a 60% chance that this one risk will destroy your business if you ignore it. Any guess as to what that risk is? Anybody? This is a recent article out of Inc. magazine as well, okay? This is one we grabbed yesterday. It's the risk of a cyber attack, according to Inc. magazine. So let's go back to that number again. 60% of companies fail within 6 months of a cyber attack. That is an absolutely huge deal. So let's move on to the next here. More than 70% of attacks, again, according to Inc. magazine, more than 70% of attacks targeted small business. That's you, that's me. That's up about 15%, by the way, since last year. And 60% of hacked small and medium-sized businesses go out of business after 6 months. Okay? Really, really interesting. Really interesting. So coming on here now, we're seeing these all of the time. We're seeing these hacks. Everybody hears about them. So what do we have up on the screen right now? Well, in fact, everybody's starting to get into the game. People are out there looking for cybersecurity jobs. 1.5 million open jobs. I've heard estimates as high as 2 million by 2020. That is a lot of open jobs in cybersecurity. So that means for you, it's going to be hard to find somebody that knows what they're doing. For managed services providers, break-fix shops, the standard computer place, it's going to be hard, if not impossible, for them to find someone. Because if you have a shortage of 1 to 2 million people with a certain skill set, the price of that skill set goes up. And it's gone up astronomically. Some of the people in the cyber business are making a couple $100,000 or more. And even if you could get them to work for you, they're not going to be interested, right? Because they're going to want the challenging stuff, the fun stuff. They're going to work with the Cisco Talos people. They're going to want to have their hands in their own business trying to do things. What else do you find? Well, you find Congress. Here's a bill that was introduced this year, putting money aside for building this apprenticeship program in cybersecurity. Frankly, as though the federal government can solve the problem. Then you also see this. Anybody know what an MSSP is? You go ahead and stick it in the chat channel if you think you know. What is an MSSP? And it must be something pretty simple, because you can become an MSSP in 6 weeks, according to this, even if you're not a security expert. MSSP stands for Managed Security Services Provider. So you pay up, you pay a few $100. Now you go through this online course and you too are a security professional. How about this one? I heard this on the radio. Now, you know, I do a lot of radio appearances. I have my own radio show, iHeartRadio, terrestrial broadcast, as well as online. So I was listening to the radio and I heard these guys. mycomputercareer.edu. You can look them up right now. mycomputercareer.edu. How did they get an edu domain? I'm not quite sure. But at any rate, you can start your new life as an IT professional in as little as 4 months. So I went to their site, I poked around, actually took their test. They didn't tell me how well I did. There were like 40 questions. And they started out with things like, what does RAM mean? What's a DVD? Okay, the normal type of stuff. So I took their evaluation. But can you really learn what you need to become an IT pro in 4 months? This tells you and shows you, frankly, how desperate many businesses are out there. So what are your next steps? First of all, you've got to assess the risks. And that's what I'm trying to help everybody with by doing these cyber liability assessments when we're going through all of this. You've got to then rate the risks. So you have to assess them. You have to know what they are. You have to rate them so that you can categorize them, figure out what it is that you want to address, what it is you have to address. Just like I was saying earlier today, how Stephen and Hannah and Ella were all working with a client, trying to go through and prioritize, right? You've got to mitigate some of these issues, sometimes right away, because they are so critical and so crucial. You have to create policies, because remember we talked about shadow IT? You've got to rein those people in. They shouldn't be out just buying stuff willy-nilly. You need to look at this as an overall package. And then you have to have policies for your employees. And again, I can provide you with some of those if you're interested, but letting them know what they should not, and can and cannot do. You've got to do ongoing monitoring to make sure all of the policies are being followed, making sure all of the systems stay secure, right? There's just a lot to do here. Scanning. This should be automated. If someone has to do it, the odds are it's not going to get done. I got to take my daughter to soccer this afternoon. I'll do that tomorrow, and somehow tomorrow never comes. And they have to be very, very thorough, which means you should be using a third party for some of this evaluation. Now, this is what it should all include. Big, long list, right? These are the main things that you have to watch for: being hacked, having malware, not being up to date. There's about 24 things right there on that screen. And then also the main things like what software is installed, the firmware that's in your devices that you bought. Are all the patches up to date? Do you have software installed on machines that's just plain not used, which means at the very least it might be out of date and might be a way for the bad guys to get in? How about all of the apps that are on your mobile devices? How safe are those? We know that for some apps, such as the background apps for Android, at one point, more than a third of them were actually malware. How about you? Do you know what you have? And by the way, another reason, don't ever, ever, ever buy Android. You've heard that from me before if you listen to me much, but it's very unsafe. And then how about all the connected and remote devices? People working at home, working at the coffee shop, because now they might have a VPN, but that VPN can be used against you. What is the VPN doing? It's providing a tunnel right into your network. So if that tunnel is there, and let's say another machine is infected at that employee's house, that machine may be able to hop through the tunnel right onto your network and start infecting it. Another machine in that coffee shop or that hotel or at the airport can now hop through using your VPN, right? Depending, of course, on the software configuration. There's good ways to do it, wrong ways to do it. So this is all the stuff you have to consider. That's what we're doing here with the Cyber Liability Assessment Report. We went through this in a little bit of detail yesterday. I'm not going to delve into it much more today. But I think this is really important because this is the starting point, the very starting point of it all. So what did you guys learn today? If you could, just in the chat really quickly, if there's anything you learned, is there anything that I missed, stuff you want me to cover? I'd be glad to do it right there in the chat room. Love to hear from you. And, the big question basically was it all worth it for you? Okay. Right there in the chat room. And then I'll tell you about my offers. I got a brand new offer, never offered this before. I think that you might like this, frankly, for a lot of reasons. Okay, so we're responding directly to you. Here we go. Okay, so this is the same offer basically I had yesterday. Okay, so this is an offer of a complete cyber liability assessment on a single computer. Now, this again, it's one computer. It's just really, it's going to be a snapshot. Okay, this is obviously not going to be something that gets into a whole lot of detail about your network because it doesn't know anything about the network, or all of your computers. No, because this is just for a single computer. And that's why the next offer is coming up here in just a second, because we had a lot of people say, how do we do it? How do we know? How do we plan? How do we make all of this happen? So you can click right now on your screen at the register now. This is absolutely free, no credit card required. Okay, if you haven't done it, I sent out emails this afternoon to everyone that signed up yesterday and last week as well. We're getting things started. In fact, we already started the people that signed up last week, so they'll be getting their assessment reports here pretty quickly. And I noticed we got one or two of those people on the call today. But we're going to identify at-risk data. We're going to put a dollar value on it. And we're also going to tell you what software you have that's out of date, so you can check and see if your updates are working, if people are actually doing them. So simple right now, you can go to craigpeterson.com/CLA, but I've got an even bigger bonus for you here in just a minute. So craigpeterson.com/CLA, get your cyber liability assessment, or you can click on your screen right now, or you can just email me at craigpeterson.com. I'll send you to the right place. Now, this is going to be open through Friday night. Okay, so if you haven't signed up, as long as we have slots, we're going to keep this open through Friday night. It is absolutely closing Friday at midnight, so make sure you sign up right away. Here's the big one, okay? What's the big reason? What's the number one reason I'm here? Well, the main reason I'm here today is to help kickstart your cybersecurity. You guys need to know what to do. You need to get a basic understanding of it. You don't have to be experts, right? But I wanted to help kickstart it. So I had 3 or 4 people specifically ask for this. So you might be interested in it as well. But we will lay out your cyber strategy for you. Okay. So this is a very, very big deal. We're talking about a done it for you cyber strategy. We're talking about going in, looking at your network. So we'll look at your routers, your switches, we'll look at your internet service provider, we'll look at your server, we'll look at your desktop computers, we'll look at your laptop computers, we'll look at your tablets. Now, we're not going to do absolutely everything with everything. We want you to understand the lay of the land. So we're going to provide you with a complete cybersecurity review and consulting. Now, I sell this, and I sell it to customers who are looking to do some major changes, really get a fix as to where they are. This is something that we charge $5,000 or more for. We've charged more than $20,000 for one of these before. Absolutely. Okay. I go on some of these webinars and I wonder, is this guy pulling my leg? What's going on? No, this is real. That's what we usually charge. So again, this is open right now. Take advantage of this opportunity. It's a $1,500 charge, is $1,497. And you will have the attention of me and my team. So we're going to go through, we're going to help you understand where you're at. We're going to put together a cybersecurity plan for you so that you can now take that plan and implement it. Now, whether or not you're using us to do the implementation or you're going to do it yourself, this is a plan you could take to your IT guy or gal and say, okay, these are the steps. This is what we should be doing. Here's the order we should be doing it in. So you can hand them that complete plan. We're going to also include with that plan a soup to nuts. It's about 50 different employee policies. That's something that your lawyer would charge you $2,000 for right there. We're going to provide you with a business contract that you can use with your service providers. Again, that's a $2,000 value. And we have a number of other things too. We have an overall blueprint for security that we're going to be providing, all of this stuff, okay, and more, which includes the password special reports. We've got 3 or 4 other special reports, but there's only one way you're going to get it. That is if you act right now. That's what this is about. And it's a phenomenal value. You know me, I hope. By now you realize I give away a lot of stuff. I really help a lot of people. We're almost at 1,000 weekly radio shows where I'm educating the public and businesses, right? This is what I do. This is what I love doing. You know, I have 8 kids, and that often surprises people. My wife and I have been married for more than 35 years. And this whole thing is me trying to help other people. More than half of our married life, we've had other people, whole families sometimes, living with us in our home. I've taught people skills that they could use to support their families, right? It just goes on and on. This is real. I'm real. Karen, my wife, who's helping us here, is real as well. And this is a real offer. And if you click right now on the buy now, you'll see I've got some testimonials up there that I think that you might appreciate. And, we could go on and on about all of the stuff that's available. It is absolutely huge what we're going to be providing, just huge value. And if you're not happy with it, all you have to do is let me know, and we will go ahead and refund your money. It couldn't get much simpler than that. At least I don't think it could, right? Bottom line. So we have, I don't know here. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to try and do something. I'm going to leave up that buy now button so that you can click on that, because that offer is going away. I want to see if small businesses are interested in it, if they're really interested in trying to secure their networks and their systems. And this is really the lowest we could offer it for with all of these bonuses. It's just absolutely incredible. But I want to pull up for you here a bunch of testimonials, okay? Now, these are testimonials from some people that you may know, some other people you may not know, frankly. This cybersecurity review and consulting is we're going to look at all of these machines that you have to varying levels, okay? So we're not going to look at every machine, every part of every machine, but we're going to be putting all of this together for you, okay? We're going to look at your tablets, your smartphones, your printers, your faxes, routers, switches, make sure they're up to date. We're going to look at all of your installed software, your unused software, applications, connected and remote devices, with our obvious goals that we've talked about a few times here. Done for you full business cyber liability assessment with the network assessment, computer assessments, and then on an ongoing basis, we can even take over the security maintenance for your computers, your servers, so that we are doing the updates. We're making sure everything is, all these layers are in place. We can help you with firepower with high-end firewalls if that's what you need. But you got to start somewhere, and probably the best place for most of us to start is with a cybersecurity review and some consulting. That should still be up on the screen there for you, that offer. And if you click buy now, or you can just go to craigpeterson.com/CSR, this offer is going to be up, and at least for probably the next 5 minutes or so, we'll probably keep this offer up through the end of the day, Friday. And that's when the cart closes. That's when this goes away. That's when my price starts at $2,500. And as I said, can go up as high as $20,000, depending on the size of your organization. So if you have any other questions, by all means, stick them in the channel for me, and I'll be glad to answer them, or we'll get back to them offline as well. And thanks for being with us today. And make sure you visit the concierge page. We're going to have a few more things posted there over the next few days. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.